Hi everyone. This video was recorded yesterday, and it was a disaster. Not only did I have it on manual focus like I do now, but I hadn't actually focused it, so the whole thing was blurry. Hopefully it's not blurry now, but my viewfinder can't actually show, like, I can't see whether I'm perfectly in focus, and the fact that my eyesight's not great these days, so hope I'm in focus. I hadn't really planned out what I was going to say, and my God, did it not make sense. I rambled so much and it was awful. It was just an awful video. I jumped like I usually do. I jumped from thing to thing, never really made sense. So I thought I'll actually write my points down and then film it properly again. I am aware that the eyeliner on my right eye is all over the place. I did my makeup today and then I thought, I know, I'm going to put some winged eyeliner on, and I messed it up. This one went down, this one went up, but it wasn't in the corner of my eye, so I had to wipe the eyeliner off, and it's like the stuff you put on the brush, so it's highly like it's really waterproof, so you have to rub off. So I rubbed all my eye makeup off, so this one is completely different from this one. Don't have wings anymore, just a state. So the moral of the story is, if your makeup's quite nice, don't ruin it with an attempt to put winged eyeliner on. So now I've rambled on for a couple of minutes about anything other than the subject you've turned on for. I will start talking about what this video is going to be about. So a couple of weeks ago, possibly a month ago, depending on when this video goes up, I put a video up titled something along the lines of dealing with anxiety. I'll link it in a card for you if you want to go and watch it. And I was going through anxiety for the second time in my life. The first time in my life, that wasn't me trumping, that was my fingers. I can't recreate the sound now. The first time in my life I suffered from anxiety through a phobia. I went to cognitive behavioural therapy, cured the phobia, cured my anxiety. This time it was anxiety, fear, anxiety, that awful cycle. And it was triggered because I was stressed. I'd put myself under a lot of stress. I'm a workaholic, and that's kind of what I do. I just work, kind of thrive off it. But I didn't realise how much stress I'd put myself under. A panic attack happened because I was so stressed. It kind of came out of the blue. Wasn't expecting it at all. I felt great and it just happened. And I kind of recovered. A week later I was fine. And then all of a sudden I had another one. And it was the second one that really got me. The first one I dealt with okay. It was a second panic attack that kind of cemented that fear. And I started to get into that awful cycle of, I fear having another panic attack. That fear releases adrenaline. That adrenaline causes a panic attack. And in that awful, awful cycle. So I put that video up. I had went to the doctors and spoken to my doctor. I knew what I had to do because of the CBT last time. I'm trying to talk in a kind of chronological order rather than jumping back. A little explanation of how I would explain the mental issues with anxiety for people who don't suffer it. I have a panic attack, which is awful. It's adrenaline being released into my body. It makes me feel awful. I understand it's not going to kill me. It's unpleasant. It's not the worst thing in the world. However, mentally, I am really crushed afterwards. I am not myself anymore. And it's the mental side I struggle to get over. I'm exhausted after a panic attack, but physically I'm fine. it's the mental thing I need to deal with. And the way I try and describe it to people who don't really understand it is, let's say you've witnessed something horrific. You have seen someone being beat up, or you've seen like a car accident, or you've just witnessed something awful. Maybe you've watched a film that's really scarred you mentally. The next day, you're going to be thinking of that all day. You're not going to be able to get it out of your head. It's just going to be there, and you're like, God, I can't get this awful thing out of my head. The day after, it's still going to be there, but less. The day after, going to be less. And that's exactly with a panic attack. You have the panic attack, and the next day, that's all you can think about, that horrible panic attack, how it made you feel. And then, as the day goes on, it gets less and less and less. Now, with the awful film you watched, or whatever had happened, that's not going to happen again. So eventually you move so far away from it that you forget it totally, and then it goes out of your mind. My lighting, hold on. Sorry, the sun's come out and I've got it on manual and I'm going to be all over the place. We'll just have to deal with it. I've just had to close my curtains because the sun's all over the shop. So, yeah, so basically, I forgot what I was talking about. When you can move away from that event, you forget about it eventually. With a panic attack though, it's similar. If you can move away from that initial panic attack in time, a week, 2 weeks, and not have another one, you're healing mentally and you get better. So the first day, it's all I can think about. Second day, a little less, third day. But what happens is, a week or 2 weeks down the line, I might have another panic attack. Something might set me off, and then straight away, I'm back to square one again. And for the next week, I'm a wreck mentally. So that's kind of, for me, the mental side of panic attacks are really, really tough to get over. And I was not myself, and I don't think anyone is. I was just a shell of the person I am. I didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to do anything. The thought of doing anything worried me. And I hated it. I hated feeling so vulnerable because that's not who I am. I'm not a vulnerable person. I am independent. I am strong, and this fear of fear, which is what it is, had just pushed me in the ground and beat me up, and I was just like a wreck. It was insane. It's awful. It's just the most horrible thing in the world. So I knew what I had to do. I had to get away from the panic attack in time in order to get over it mentally. In order to do that though, I knew that I'd need a bit of help. Medical help, i.e. beta blockers. What was setting my panic attacks off was my feelings. I would feel like I was having a panic attack, so my heart felt like a bit fluttery, or my stomach was churning and I felt nervous. And when I got that nervous feeling, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling nervous. And I'm like, oh God, my heart, I can feel my heart. Is that a panic attack? And you think, is that a panic attack coming on? You get scared, your body releases, blah, blah. Your body releases, what? That's not even a word, Charlotte. Releases adrenaline. When it releases adrenaline, that causes another panic attack. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I needed to move away from the heart palpitations. That was my key. If I could forget my heart palpitations, if they weren't there, then my brain would stop thinking, is that a panic attack? If I could stop thinking about having a panic attack, another one wouldn't come. I'd get away from them and they'd eventually stop. It turns out I didn't need many. I have quite a low resting heart rate anyway, I think. I did take, when I felt really nervous, I took one a day. I think in total I probably took about 7, and that was just one a day. However, something else has, I won't say cured me. It probably has cured me actually. I'm not 100% cured yet, but I am in such a good place, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. I have talked for so long and I haven't even got round to what I was here to talk about. Hopefully you expect that from me now. So, when I released my anxiety video, I read all of the comments. I read all of the comments all the time, just so you know. Somebody called Chris, who his username's something else, but I know his name's Chris. He had mentioned a joke comment like, throw those books out the window that I was reading, or throw them at the thing that's making the noise, and buy yourself something by Dr. Claire Weekes. Now, because I was recommended a book when I first was dealing with stress years ago, and it was really good, it was Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, I know that self-help books can work. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. So I looked up this Dr. Claire Weekes, and she was ancient. And I don't know what it was. I judged a book by its cover. I saw the picture of her. It was really old, probably in like the 70s or something. And I thought, oh God, it looks like a really old book. It's going to be rubbish. It's going to be dead old fashioned. But at that point, I was desperate and I was willing to try anything. So I bought that book. And this is the book. Dr. Claire Weekes, Self-Help for Your Nerves. This thing, like, within page 8, I was feeling amazing. I was reading it and I couldn't get enough of it. The first page I sat and cried through. I read the first page and I was reading it out aloud. I think I was just in the house on my own and I was reading. I thought I'd read it aloud. And I literally sat and cried while reading this. And I think it was the first paragraph. It said, if you are reading this book because you are having a nervous breakdown or because your nerves are in a bad way, you are the very person for whom it has been written, and I shall therefore talk directly to you as if you were sitting beside me. And I'm not going to cry. I was in such a state. I was in such a dark place. And I know, 2 weeks that I've gone through anxiety again isn't by no means what some people are going through with depression or, long-term anxiety. But it's relevant to, your pain is relevant to you. And for me, I was in such an awful, awful place that I was wanting any help. And that paragraph just kind of hit home to me. It was like she was talking to me. So then I continued to read the rest of it, crying. Once I dried my eyes, I started reading the rest of it, and by page 8, I think it was, I felt amazing. My problem, I will explain my problem. My problem was that my panic attacks were being triggered by my heart, like my beating, fluttery heart, a scared feeling in my stomach. When you're going through, not necessarily anxiety, but if you have like a job interview, or you have to stand up in front of people, or you have to talk to someone, confront someone, you have that awful nervous feeling in your stomach. I had that all the time. And then when I kind of noticed it, I thought, oh, I don't like that feeling. Oh God, my heart. I'm like, oh, it's a panic attack coming on. And self-fulfilling prophecy, I'd have one because I'd triggered my own panic attack. And it was the fact that I couldn't get away from this constant beating heart. And it wasn't, I actually measured my heart rate when I was sat there. I could feel it beating away in me, and it felt like it was really beating out my chest. So I sat and took my heart rate, and it was 62, which is very low. It wasn't palpitating, it wasn't racing, it was at a very low resting heart rate. And I didn't understand why. I thought, why can I feel my heart pounding out my chest? But it's a perfectly healthy resting heart rate. This book explained it to me. And for me, understanding my body and explaining why things are happening kind of makes me understand what's going on, makes me accept it and be like, okay, that's fine. And I'm going to read you a little bit of this book, not much, just the pages, because I've not actually got all the way through. What page am I on? 57 I'm on. Page 4 to 6. Okay, so chapter 2, how our nervous system works. My voice feels very croaky. Our nervous system consists of two main parts, known as the voluntary nervous system and the involuntary nervous system. The voluntary nervous system. This part directs the movement of the limbs, head and trunk, and we control it more or less as we wish, hence its name. It consists of the brain and spinal cord, from which a number of paired nerves arise, each ending in the muscle it supplies. The involuntary nervous system. I couldn't get that out there. The second part controls the internal organs, heart, blood vessels, lungs, intestines, etc., even the flow of saliva and sweat. It has its headquarters in the brain centre, connected with a delicate network of fibres laying on either side of the spinal column, from which numerous thread-like branches pass to internal organs. This second part is not under our immediate control, but, and this is of paramount importance in understanding nerves, it responds to our moods. For example, when we are afraid, our cheeks blanch, our pupils dilate, our heart beats quickly, and our hands may sweat. We do not consciously react like this, and we have no power to stop these reactions other than to change our mood. We therefore call this part the involuntary nervous system. The involuntary nervous system itself consists of two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Of course, the sympathetic sympathises more demonstratively with our moods, hence its name. The action of the sympathetic nerves strengthens an animal's defences against the various dangers which beset it, such as extremes of temperatures, deprivation of water, attack by its enemies. Have you ever seen a frightened animal standing stock still from fear before taking flight? Its nostrils and pupils dilate, its heart races, it breathes quickly. The sympathetic division of the involuntary nervous system has prepared it for fight or flight. The pattern of fear. We human beings react in the same way when afraid. Fear begins as an impulse in our brain which excites the sympathetic nerves to stimulate various regions, skin and organs, heart, lung and intestines, to produce the signs and symptoms of fear, the sweating hands, racing heart, quick breathing, dry mouth, etc. The sympathetic nerves do this by means of a substance called adrenaline, which is released at the nerve terminals in the organs concerned. Also, our two adrenal glands themselves, under sympathetic nervous stimulation, secrete additional adrenaline into our bloodstream to enhance the action of the sympathetic nerves. And this next bit explains why I could feel everything happening in my body. When we are afraid, we also feel a horrible sensation in the pit of our stomach. This is the most distressing component of fear. However, the complete picture of fear includes all the symptoms induced by adrenaline, the sweating hands, racing heart, heaving chest, etc., as well as a spasm of fear felt in our middle. Normally, we do not feel our body functioning because parasympathetic nerves hold the sympathetic nerves in check. It's only when we are overwrought, angry, afraid, excited, that the sympathetic nerves dominate the parasympathetic and we are conscious of certain organs functioning. A healthy body without stress is a peaceful body. Most of us associate kindness and understanding with the word sympathetic, and as the reactions of the sympathetic nerves can be anything but kind, some people find it difficult to reconcile themselves to the term sympathetic nerves. Therefore, to avoid any bewilderment, I shall henceforth refer to the sympathetic nerves as the adrenaline-releasing nerves, which after all is what they are. So briefly, we have a voluntary nervous system by means of which we move our body, an involuntary nervous system consisting of adrenaline-releasing and parasympathetic divisions which control the functions of our internal organs, each part balancing the other. Normally, we do not feel our involuntary nervous system working. But when we are overwrought, the adrenaline releasing nerves are especially stimulated, and we may feel our heart beat quickly, our hands sweat, and our mouth may feel dry. In addition, our stomach may churn, we may feel breathless, giddy, and we may have an urgent need to retire to the toilet. So basically that chapter explained to me why I could feel it. It goes on to explain it a little further in the next chapter. When you've suffered grief and a lot of stress, your involuntary nervous system gets gets a battering. Let's say you've been dealing with stress for 6 months. It builds up and builds up and builds up, and eventually it breaks. That's kind of your nervous system. Your nervous system goes through so much stress. It's like a jogger. Someone is running and they run and run and run. They've got a little stress fracture, but they don't really notice it. And then one day that stress fracture breaks. They've got a broken leg. And that's the same with your nervous system. You're going through so much stress or grief and you don't really realise it because it's coming slow and constantly. Then one day it breaks. And just like she was saying there, usually your parasympathetic nerves cover everything. They let things in your body get on with it without you realising it. But when your nervous system has broken through stress or whatever, the parasympathetic nerves no longer can cover those adrenaline nerves. So you can then feel everything. And my problem was I could feel my heart beating all of the time. And I didn't understand why. And it was the fact that it was beating. I've got this really weird ticking in my ear when I'm talking. I think it's just my jaw, but it's really irritating. I could feel it beating, and I didn't understand why, and it was causing more panic attacks. As soon as I understood why I could feel my heart beating, I stopped worrying, because originally I thought, I can feel my heart beating, oh my god, it's a panic attack coming along. As soon as I understood why it was beating, I thought, oh, it's not a panic attack coming along, it's just because I put myself under so much stress. So this is how my nervous system's working, so me feeling my heart beating, that's normal. And the fear went. When I read the bit about trembly hands, I was always... And I actually felt the tremble before I had my first panic attack. I remember sitting at my computer, my whole body had this like internal tremor. You know when you're cold and your whole body kind of shakes? I had it. And I remember just a moment when it went. Everything stopped shaking and it was so peaceful. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. I was feeling that shake for some reason. I didn't understand why at the time, but I thought I was feeling the shakes there. It's nice, it's gone. I remember reading a chapter about that, and I had the shakes, and they went, because I understood why they went. Now, it doesn't all go, it doesn't all cure you. She talks about accepting them. So once you accept, I'm going to have to accept this really weird ticking noise in the side of my head. Once you accept you've got a beating heart, trembly hands, you might have that horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach. Once you can accept those, then you can distract yourself. Originally, before I read this book, whenever I felt a panic attack coming on, I was distracting myself from what I was feeling. I'd put the TV on, I'd try and meditate, I'd put music on, I would do anything to distract myself. And I was fighting down these feelings and they wouldn't go. And it's because I wasn't accepting them. I didn't know what they were, I was just trying to push them away and pretend they weren't happening. But now, if I have that beating heart, I don't have to fight it. I accept it and then I distract myself in other ways. She also says to concentrate on them. If you've got a beating heart, just sit there and actually listen to it. Focus on it and you'll probably find that your mind wanders somewhere else. I'm going to read you page 25. Whatever this is in my head needs to go. It's like just when I talk, it's really weird. I just want to read you this bit. So she talks about churning stomach. So she's saying, sit there and feel. Exactly, examine what your stomach is doing. Examine what it feels like. Now that you've faced and examined it, is it so terrible? If you had arthritis in your wrist, you would be prepared to work with the arthritic pain without becoming too upset. Why regard this churning as something so different from ordinary pain that it can frighten you? Stop regarding it as some monster trying to possess you. Understand that it is but the working of an oversensitized adrenaline-releasing nerves, and that by constantly shrinking from it, you have stimulated an excessive outflow of adrenaline, which has further excited your nerves to produce continual churning. While you examine and analyze this churning, a strange thing may happen. You may find your attention wandering from yourself. This thing that seemed so terrible while you stayed tense and flinched from it may fail to hold your attention for long when you see it for what it is, no more than a strange physical feeling of no great medical significance and causing no real harm. Be prepared to accept and live with it for the time being. Accept it as something that will be with you for some time yet, in fact while you recover, but something that will eventually leave you if you are prepared to let time pass and not anxiously watch the churning during its passing. But do not make the mistake of thinking that it will go as soon as you cease to fear it. Your nervous system is still tired and will take time to heal, just as a broken leg takes time. However, as you improve and are no longer afraid of the churning and do not try and cure it by controlling it, and you are prepared to accept it and work with it at present, you will become more interested in other things and you will gradually forget to notice whether it is there or not. This is the way to recover. And what she said has actually happened. When did I get this book? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? For the first 2 weeks, I had ups and downs. I've not had a panic attack since. I've not even had anything close to a panic attack. I have had episodes of having a tight chest, which I understand is just another symptom, like a fluttery heart. I've had my heart beating, I've had that awful feeling in my stomach, trembling, and it took me about 2 weeks for it all to go. Every now and again, I still get a little fluttery heart. Usually it's on an evening, and usually it's because, let's say if I've stayed on the computer late, I'll have a mini oh no, I didn't get off the computer fast enough and I'm going to stress myself, and I'm kind of stressing that I'm going to stress myself again. I'm making huge efforts to be less stressed, more chilled. I am meant to be off the computer by 8 o'clock at night on most nights, in bed by 10:30 or making a move to go to bed by 10:30. I've got adult colouring books, so I am making an effort to be less stressed. But sometimes that little heart thing will come back because I'm worried that I'm going to stress myself. But I'm not. I'm going to continue reading this book. While I felt anxious, I would read this book non-stop. I would just sit and go through page after page. Because the more I learned about my body, the better it made me feel. However, when I would have a period of 2-3 days of feeling no anxiety at all, I was almost a little bit scared to pick this up because it would remind me of the anxiety I'm going through, and that worked for me. If I didn't want to pick it up, I wouldn't pick it up. I'm over it enough now to continue reading it though. I really want to finish this book, and I'm so far away from anxiety that I'm no longer scared that reading about anxiety and reading about all those feelings I have will trigger it. All I've got to do is make sure that I'm not stressed anymore, and if I do feel anxious, I'll understand it's adrenaline, and just take all the advice from the book. I haven't felt, I'm trying to think if I have felt anxious or not. Yesterday was a bit of an odd day. Sometimes when I think about anxiety, it kind of rears its ugly little head and kind of peeks over my shoulders like, what, you want to be anxious again? And I'm like, no, but obviously I've thought about it and it creeps back, and when it creeps back, you're in that thing of constantly thinking about it. So I'm not over the hill yet, but I'm certainly close to the top, and I wanted to share why. This book may not help you. I'm not saying it's a miracle cure for everyone. Don't mind the light, it's getting darker outside now. Yeah, so this book, I'm not being paid to promote this book. I'm kind of promoting it because it worked. I'm telling you about it because I want someone out there who is right now in the position I was last month. I want them to find help. I want them to find their way out. And you may get this book and it doesn't work, but you may get this book and it may help you just like it helped me, and you kind of get out of the other side. And that's why I'm doing this video. So yeah, I am kind of promoting it just because I love it. And I am going to work my way through it. It's on Amazon. You can probably get it on eBay, like a second-hand one. I know my auntie went to buy it and she bought like a second-hand used one, and it never arrived, so they gave her a refund. So she's just going to go and buy this. I think it was £6.99, the one I got. So that's kind of it. I don't know if this video was any less rambly than the one I did yesterday. I've kind of narrowed it down and chatted less shit. Sometimes I will go off on a tangent and just be talking about something that has absolutely no relevance whatsoever. This clicking in my ear is doing my head in. Oh, it's really irritating. And just to let you know how I am doing in general now, I am good. I discovered through all of this, I didn't really have a hobby. You could call playing video games a hobby, which kind of is, but I never really had an away from the computer hobby, an away from my phone hobby. And I am taking up a hobby, and that hobby is knitting. When I was away at Cumbria, I was away with 4 other women, 3 of them knit. And at first I was thinking about doing cross stitch, because I've done cross stitch in the past, but I thought at the end of it I'm going to be left with a cross stitch. Now I'm not the type of person to put it in a frame and put it up, and I thought I don't want to be left with loads of cross stitches. And I thought, what happens if I knitted? I love knitted stuff. Knitted jumpers, hats, scarves, mittens, blankets. And it was then that I thought, if I can knit, then I can, knit people scarves and mittens and little teddies and things. And I know I'm getting way, way ahead of myself, because right now I know kind of the way you do knitting. Put it through, around, over the top and then off. I know that much because I did it when I was a kid, but I'm looking forward to getting into it. And I'm looking forward to starting to knit stuff and exploring different wools and different types of stitching. The thing I want to knit eventually is a really big, my card just filled up, so this means this video's long. What I eventually want to knit is a very big merino creamy grey merino wool cable knit blanket. That's what I dream of having for my couch, but I've looked out there and they're so expensive. Like, there was one I spotted, I think it's in the House of Fraser, and it was beautiful. It was like £100, and I thought, I can't justify paying £100 ever for a blanket for a couch. So eventually I might get good enough to knit my own, and it'll be all the more satisfying to have my own. If you're wondering why I'm out of breath, It's because I've just darted downstairs to get my other SD card and maybe a chocolate. I opened these last night on a live unboxing, and they were freaking delicious. So I'm going to have another one with my cold cup of tea now. So yeah, I'll leave the link for the book in the description box if you're interested in getting it. It might be, you know, you can have a look on eBay. You'll probably get them cheaper secondhand on eBay if you want them, but I'll leave that there just for ease if you want to get it. If you do, let me know how you get on with it. If you read it and it's amazing, let me know. Let me know how you're doing in general, because a lot of people got in touch with my first anxiety video and, you know, said they were going through the same, and it was nice to know that they're not alone. How are you doing now from the last time that you messaged me? I hope you're all better and not in the same place I was, because I know how awful it is. Right, I'm never good at ending videos, so I'm going to end it now before I ramble on. I hope you got some help from this video, and I will see you on my next one. Take care.